Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to AIX. Welcome to Hamburg. We are going to have an interesting conversation this morning. An excellent conversation this morning. Excellent. Ben says excellent. I'm excited to be here, joined by 4 industry providers and an airline. And having an airline with us is actually the best part because throughout these 4 guys are going to talk about how connectivity works, how everything is perfect, how they're making it all wonderful, and Melanie gets to tell them that they're wrong on behalf of the airlines and remind them that they should be doing better, doing more. So we are going to talk about partnerships, though. They are all companies that do work together, have partnerships across the industry, and come together to make sure that, in theory, the airlines and then the passengers do get that excellent connectivity experience that they're looking for. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves real quickly as we get started here. Elias, you want to start at that end, and we'll work our way down?
Yeah. Elias Zaccack, Global Head of Aviation for SES. SES is a satellite operator based in Luxembourg. We support roughly 3,000 aircraft today with in-flight connectivity, although you may not know us as a direct supplier because we do it primarily through a lot of what we call aero service providers, the like of Panasonic, Anuvu, Intelsat, Inflight, and Viasat, and Thales.
Yeah. Reza?
And Hughes.
And Hughes.
Reza Rasoulian, I'm responsible for the aviation business at Hughes. Similarly, as Elias mentioned, historically we were an indirect player in the market. We were happy to partner with Delta, which was announced in November, to serve connectivity on over 400 aircraft. So we came to market direct as well. We still support our partners and we have direct relationships as well. We believe in agnosticity. And we're really happy to be here amongst a lot of our partners and Airbus as of this morning.
Ben Griffin, responsible for aviation at Eutelsat OneWeb, so it's a combination of both LEO and GEO satellite fleets, and we'll be launching our LEO services later on this year, which will be distributed by Hughes and Panasonic and Intelsat, and of course business aviation as well through other DPs. I've been in IFC for quite a long time, and hopefully we'll get it right most of the time, but we'll find out in a minute, but that's me.
Hi everyone, I'm Melanie Berry. I work for Iberia, part of IAG, as Director of Customer Experience. I'm responsible in that for connectivity and many other things. And I have worked for 5 airlines in total, so I've got quite a lot of experience in this area.
Good morning everyone, Jérôme Condis. I'm from Airbus Commercial Aircraft. I'm part of a newly created organization in Airbus called the Connected Aircraft Program, which demonstrates the importance Airbus puts on connectivity and digitalization of the operations in the future. And I'm more particularly in charge of architecture and partnership for those solutions, which perfectly fits with the topic of our session today.
Excellent. So I wasn't joking earlier. Melanie, we're going to start with you. And I do want you to sort of give us set the stage for what in-flight connectivity expectations are these days, both from the perspective of the airline and especially the passengers.
From a customer point of view, in this era, people expect to get on board and to carry on their everyday lives, so they want to be connected. And when they're not connected or when something doesn't work, they are very disappointed. In fact, we often get messages from customers saying if they'd realized the Wi-Fi wasn't going to work, they would have chosen another airline. As we move forward and we provide more connectivity. So in Iberia, we have 95% of the fleet are connected, and we've moved to give customers free messaging, which was amazing. But when you give them free messaging, the next question is, well, why can't we do free browsing? So they want to be able to be connected exactly the same way that they are at home. It's a really, as we all know, it's a really difficult jigsaw puzzle. And we often find in our statistics that the percentage of customers that want to connect to use the Wi-Fi but can't is very, very high. Things are getting better. It used to be around 70% for us. It's now around 40, 45, but that's still not good enough. And actually, it's so complicated and there are so many pieces in the puzzle if something doesn't work. So if the crew explained it incorrectly, if we didn't have a long list of instructions of exactly how you connect on this aircraft because it's one provider versus another aircraft, if the antenna wasn't working or if the portal wasn't working, then people can't connect, and it's very, very difficult to manage it on board. So from a customer point of view, we have to find a way to make it better. And from an airline point of view, the same. It's very, very complicated. It's complicated because it's very specific to certain suppliers. So if we could work together to find a way to make it work better or to have better solutions, it would definitely help.
It sounds to me like you almost need some suppliers to have a partnership to smooth some of those speed bumps out.
Yeah, definitely.
You think these guys can pull it off?
I hope so. We're going to hear about that today, I hope.
That's what we're here to talk about. Elias, with SES, you mentioned, right now you are an indirect supplier to a lot of companies, a lot of airlines. You also have some direct sales approaches or some products in other verticals. I don't believe you have any announced yet in aero, but does the opportunity to do that change things, and how do you sort of put together the right partnerships to make that work?
No, absolutely. I think Melanie is absolutely right. The IFC, the in-flight connectivity industry, I would say it's still it's in its infancy. She talks about 45% connectivity. We're still not where hotel connectivity is today. I know I and a lot of people here in this room still look at a flight as a piece of heaven where you don't want to be connected. You don't want your boss to be able to connect with you. But I know when I travel with my kids, the minute they get on the plane, they want to connect to that iPad, and they want to be connected the whole time with their friends, YouTube, whatever. Well, not YouTube, something else. But we need to get to a point where what Melanie said is absolutely correct, which is connectivity in the air that is no different than connectivity at home. And what SES is working on right now, and it will be announced shortly, is a global alliance with multiple satellite operators and multiple network operators that will be able to provide global connectivity anywhere in the world that is open architecture, using multiple waveforms, using standard technologies, and multi-orbit, open architecture, multi-orbit. The idea being that one technology will be able to deliver to an airline the confidence that you have a good technology today, but also future-proof for the future, so that one of the biggest challenges for a procurement leader in an airline is, what do I choose today with all these technology out there? I got LEO, I got MEO, I got GEO, I got KU, I got KA, and what decision do I make that doesn't get me fired? And they want something that works today, with technology that works today, but that will also work with whatever happens in the future. And that's what we are working on, and that's what we will be announcing shortly.
Awesome. And from an Airbus perspective, I think the idea of having the ability to buy something today that you know is going to sort of be maybe not entirely future-proof, but at least have some runway to work from, is a bit of the concept, I think, behind HBC Plus. Can you give us a little bit of an explanation of how that came about, and especially the way that you're using partnerships with the various suppliers to make that a viable option for some of the airlines?
Yeah, definitively. This is exactly in line with what Elias just explained. In Airbus, we have changed our positioning on the air-ground connectivity with the HBC Plus program. The intent of it being providing the airline with the basic backbone, digital backbone, and ensuring compatibility of this backbone with the different satellite providers. Of course, our North Star, the end target would have to be one single solution that would be compatible with all constellations, all frequencies. We are not there yet because technology is not fully ready to support such an approach. But definitively, our approach is trying to define terminals that are agnostic from the different service providers that would allow the airline to select with a lot of flexibility in a portfolio of different service providers. And I have to admit that all my colleagues here are now part of the HBC Plus program. We just made an announcement this morning about Hughes joining the program. SES is already part of it, and our friends from OneWeb are also part of it as a tier 2 provider. So HBC Plus program is getting wider and wider in terms of partnership with the different service providers, and our idea is really to offer a basic capability on the aircraft compatible with all the different service providers. And this is where we have to set, of course, partnerships with our friends to make a value proposition to the market.
Excellent. Reza, similar to Elias, you were mostly an indirect supplier up until, I believe, last November or so when the announcement was made about Delta, October, something like that. Has that and you're doing that obviously direct, but also with partners along the way. Has switching to have a direct customer changed the way that you look at the partnerships that you have within the industry and how you're working with things?
Thanks, Seth. That's a great question. So we're obviously supporting our partners, but I think the direct relationship with Delta, as an example, has enabled us to think like the airline. And to Melanie's point, a big part of the problem is the friction to get connected. Even if you have fantastic satellite capacity globally in regions or whatnot, if you're not doing the managed service part correctly, which is an art and a science in itself, game over. So I think when we decided to go direct, that was the primary reason why we had airline partners very frustrated at the current ecosystem. I mean, how often have you gotten on a flight and it's working and then it stops working, and it's working and it stops working? It's not always the satellite capacity. So at Hughes, we've perfected the managed service approach for connectivity at scale, which is not a trivial task, and I want to underscore that. I think having awesome networks, satellites, this, that, LEO, GEO, it's all great, and we have it all as well. But if you're not perfecting the delivery to the end user, game over, and you have frustrated passengers and frustrated airlines. So I think that's the biggest one of the primary reasons why we were selected for the Delta, and it's a fantastic partnership. Talking about partnerships, it's an absolute collaboration. We're pushing the limits in technology and in customer and passenger experience. And now there'll be more announcements also this week about other partnerships that we're moving forward with. Look, I think the time is now. Bad connectivity in the air, that's it. We've got to move forward. We as the industry need to perfect the delivery to the end passenger.
And Ben, I know you from the OneWeb side of things. I got to figure out how to adjust this for also the Eutelsat bits. But the OneWeb side of things was always only as a partner in the aerospace. So right, we talked about, you're like a tier 2 provider into HBC Plus, right? You were always a provider and a supplier. Obviously, it changes a little bit with the Eutelsat side, I think, but maybe not as much as I think, based on the look on your face. But what's it like being sort of not the bold name face partner in some of these relationships?
It's quite cool, actually. No, it's so coming into OneWeb, seeing as that's the question you asked, literally a blank sheet of paper, and right, how do we go to market? How do we capture in-flight connectivity, and what's the best way to do it? And we spent an awful lot of time, do we go direct, which is something I've done in a previous role, having been indirect, or do we maintain an indirect place and use partners? It was a really good exercise to go through that. And I think what we acknowledged throughout that process was it's really, really, really hard to be best in class at everything. / probably impossible. So why even bother trying to do it? Concentrate on what you're good at, which is launching satellites, providing a satellite service, and allow other experts in the market who are already well established, they know what to do, they have the authorizations in place to operate, and they've been through the hard yards and the difficult times and the passenger and airline complaints about getting things wrong. Why try and do that all over again when there's already a whole ecosystem of people who've gone through that, who you can leverage and get your best route to market without having to spend a ton of, well, you spend a ton of money anyway. It's a kind of expensive business, but it doesn't take, a long number of years to get there and go through the pain process. So that was very much something we went through at OneWeb, and of course, with the merger with Eutelsat last year, we had a good look at it again and decided actually that's the best way to maintain the distribution of the GEO assets as well, was through partnerships. And partnerships go through everything from the airframes to distribution to hardware and all those elements. So I think the important part of all of that is, in a very shorter sentence than the paragraphs that was given, is be really good at what you do and identify who's really good at the other bits and bring it together. And that's the best way, I think, and I think everyone agrees. It's all about passenger experience. They can just come on and it automatically links without these clunky portals and things, which are kind of necessary at the moment. Technology's there. We should just get on and roam on, and then your uptake levels go through the roof. Everyone's happy. No one complains. Utopia.
Except whoever gets the bill.
Yeah.
I don't mind if it's free. I'll take it. You just went through a merger. Actually, all three of you at the end did, right? I mean, Hughes was sort of a cousins got merged together. I don't know if that's an awkward way to describe it, but OneWeb and Eutelsat just combined. SES has made a multi-billion-dollar deal with Intelsat that's not closed yet, but certainly out there. That sounds a little bit more like a forced partnership than a partnership in some ways, in sort of the traditional sense of that word. And so there are other providers in the market that are very much vertically integrated that, I won't say never use partners, but are certainly fewer partnerships. One is pretty vocal about not having any partners, but at least in the manufacturing and supply side. But is there something different between a merger approach versus a, hey, you guys are really good at this, let's set up some commercial terms that make sense? Where do you come to, how do you sort of make some of those decisions and come across where that makes sense? All of you.
I think these consolidation decisions are bigger than IFC, obviously. If you look at the three that you've just referenced, and of course the other one in Viasat and Inmarsat a couple of years ago, it's clearly bigger than IFC. So IFC comes along for the ride, and then you work out how that plays. And I think you make the most of the assets you have. You reassess the way you go to market. Is it still appropriate? Is it still the ultimate objective of keeping the passenger happy? And if you don't need to change anything, then don't. But it's not a one and done thing. You keep looking at it all the time because things change very quickly. Ironically, in aviation it doesn't, but it does change. And competitive forces are becoming much more agile in this space, pun intended. So you have to keep looking at it all the time. So that's what I think. IFC has come along for the ride because of these organizations are much bigger than just aviation, but you have to make sure it's still viable.
I think from our perspective, very similarly, Dish is a massive acquirer of content. So we're able to relay that to our airline partners in the regions that we have content rights and distribution. And then at the macro level, the broader company gives us access to more software engineers and more hardware engineers and a team of folks that can help deliver an experience. And we're all about experience, whether it's content, internet to millions of subscribers, or passengers on airplanes.
I agree with Ben. In the case of SES, of course, we cannot comment much during this period right now about our announced acquisition, but it's not driven by IFC, of course. You talked about vertical integration. Surely there's a huge benefit in vertically integrated because you do control the entire value chain, and that gives you the ability to provide the customer experience in a controlled environment a lot better. But what is really much more important is the global partnerships that I talked about earlier, which is what we're working on. And the title of this panel is Partnerships, and I want to explain why that is important. Global partnerships is how we see IFC evolving in the next phase. We looked at the telco wireless market when it started in the 90s, where we saw a lot of wireless operators thinking, hey, I can provide wireless service to my customer wherever they go around the world, and they went out and made acquisitions in Indonesia and Philippines, all over the world. That didn't work. They needed to have a different model, different dynamic. Roaming came about. We looked at the airline industry. I want to provide connectivity for a passenger flying from point A to point B anywhere in the world. That didn't work. They needed to have air alliances. You have Star Alliance, Sky, World Alliance, etc., and One World and Sky Team. So they came up with their own dynamic model. It would be too naive for us to think that 3 or 4 global operators are going to be able to provide a global IFC connectivity for an aircraft flying from, or any airline flying from one point to another point in the world without some new model, some new partnership model that can handle all the challenges that we're facing, whether it's from a commercial point of view, rationalization of investment, whether from regulatory point of view, whether from a technical point of view. And that's where we see the world going next. You need to be able to come up with that new dynamic model to handle this new environment. And I think that's what this new global partnership model is going to deliver.
Melanie, coming back to you a little bit here, having heard some of this, and also, do you find that the relationships you have with your different providers create different, say, feelings of types of partnerships? I mean, right? Every company is a different culture to work with and whatnot. But are there sort of different things specifically that you could talk to, perhaps, about, like, what makes it work well, and how some of those partnerships that you have with your providers are doing good for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting question. We have been, well, personally myself, I've dedicated quite a lot of time over the last few years working on connectivity because it was so bad. The percentage of customers that could connect, that wanted to connect but couldn't, was really, really high, and we pay a lot of money and we put a lot of time into it. We've had the most success with the suppliers that were perceptive to that listened, that accepted that the really old, antiquated way we had of measuring their performance didn't really reflect whether anyone could really connect. If there is a heartbeat to the aircraft, that doesn't mean someone could connect. And we spent a long, long time with many of the providers debating that, because they'd say, no, it's perfect, it's 97% or it's 99%, and I'm actually like, well, that's not what my satisfaction tells me. And actually, all airlines measure satisfaction, so they measure likelihood to recommend, which is always a key driver, because that's what, in theory, generates extra revenue because people come and book. But they also measure customer satisfaction, and the worst performer in the customer journey on an aircraft. So when you look at the cabin crew, the food, the IFE, the Wi-Fi, the whole customer journey from check-in, the worst score, and this is in any airline that I look in that has connectivity, is Wi-Fi. It's improving because we're working together to improve, but when our partners listen to us and we can work together and really appreciate with each other that there are pain points, that it's difficult, that's when things really get better.
I love to retell a Patrick Brantley quote that he's shared frequently from Emirates, which is, when I was in charge of IFE, we'd go to the cookouts, and everybody loved me because they loved talking to me about how many great videos there were. And then I picked up IFC, and they wanted to come and yell at me about how terrible the internet was. And so he's getting better, I think. He still gets invited to the cookouts, though, so win some, lose some. Jerome, your Airbus, you're like the 800-pound gorilla or the 300-ton airplane or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it almost seems to me in many ways like you get to dictate what the partnerships are rather, tell them what they have to do as opposed to receiving feedback because you're Airbus and you have, that level of access. Am I wrong? How's that relationship work?
No, I think what we want to be in a position is to enable the right partnership to be put in place. So we don't want to dictate anything. We want to build the solutions that are agnostic enough to let these guys decide what are the right partnerships in terms of service provisions. So our approach is not really to impose anything to SES or Hughes. This is their job. And as explained by Ben, I think we have to do what we know we can do and what we do the best. On Airbus side, it's aircraft integration. It's optimized integration on the system within the cabin, on the fuselage with the different characteristics of the aircraft. This is what we are proposing, a natively connected aircraft. Then we have to ensure the compatibility with the different service providers, but it's really up to them to set the right partnerships on the market to have the most comprehensive and extensive connectivity service available for our customers. So this is really the approach. We are not detecting anything. We are more enabling the right partnerships to be set up on the market. That's the approach. Yeah. And maybe one element, we are talking a lot about passenger experience and IFE, and this is the main driver for connectivity. We fully recognize that. But our ambition with Airbus is also to leverage those new connectivity capabilities in order also to serve aircraft operation optimizations. Whatever on ground, whatever in flight, flight ops, whatever maintenance, advanced maintenance concept. So IFE for sure, but there are other areas where we can leverage the new connectivity capabilities that will be available on the fleet in order to improve the operation of the airlines.
I think that's a really valuable point because I really look after customer experience, but connectivity is providing solutions to the flight deck. Everything is connected. It's about having connected aircraft, connected suppliers, and connected crew as well. So we really, really come to rely on connectivity, and it makes a huge difference to the experience for the airline.
Yep.
From the service provider side of things, are you seeing those partnerships growing on the? Obviously, now I got to get tech ops involved. That's a whole another set of partners that you've got to work with on the supplier side and the tech stack side and separating data, securing data, all those things. Are you seeing those relationships starting to develop?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a pretty robust set of relationships because the common goal is back to the passenger experience. The other thing we notice is there's frustration amongst the airlines with the current providers, which is another reason why we came to market the way we did. Transparency is important, and from a Hughes perspective, we're totally transparent. If the passenger's not happy, we're not successful. So one of our key mantras is full transparency. We have a very sophisticated portal system that we've created that gives the airline the front row seat into what's happening with their fleet on a second by second basis. So it's really an open relationship. We encourage third-party checking, and we're doing that, no problem. Again, if we don't make the airline successful, we're not going to be successful. And then we have a situation like Melanie's where it's frustrating. And look, just personally, when I get on an aircraft, and look, there's close to 10,000 connected aircraft today, I'll tell you, it's not that great. Even with a lot of capacity, it's not that great. So if you're not delivering the bits to the end passenger and doing it reliably and doing it in a robust way, it's tough.
It's an interesting question. The answer is yes, absolutely. It does raise some interesting dynamics going forward. Who owns the pipe? In the case of SES, I mean, we've made a very good business owning pipes into the household in direct to home. Who owns the pipe to the aircraft? Is it the airline? Is it the service provider? Is it Airbus? Airbus would like it in order to be able to assess the status of the engine health, for example. We like it because we'd like to sell services to Netflix, for example. Airlines would like to have access to the pipe because they want to add services to the flight attendants, cabin crew, or the cockpit services. So it adds this new dynamic now. But yes, there's a lot of services that can ride on a very healthy, robust pipe. And that's also what's going to be coming in the next few years, that engagement.
And is that a function of, I mean, we talked a little bit here, like the pipe is fine for the most part. We've got mostly global coverage at this point, and it's sort of putting all the bits together. Is this just a matter of polishing those bits and making it all fit together, fit the puzzle pieces together more smoothly, or is there more major structural things that, and partner, I'm trying to, not necessarily just partnership, but structural things in the way the connectivity is built that's going to enable that?
5-10 years ago, the pipe was too thin to fight over it. It was hardly enough to support Wi-Fi services in the cabin. But now, as the pipes are getting thicker, more robust, more resilient, more dependable, you can put more services on it. And now it opens up that debate.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with that, but what I will say is that the narrowband stuff in L-band, predominantly that's used for safety services, is absolutely bulletproof in terms of reliability, and it seems as speeds increase, the reliability somehow comes down to the point where you can't use broadband stuff for flight deck things. So I think maybe where you're getting at is there is segregation of these things that are connecting aircraft, but they're two different networks, two different terminals, very deliberately separated. So in terms of partnerships there, how do the broadband providers or anyone actually provide the whole connectivity to the aircraft and own it and be responsible for it to the airline customers? I don't think we're there yet. I think there's probably one company who I won't name because they're competitive who can do all of those things because they have the satellites in the appropriate frequencies to do that. But even then, I'm not sure that's integrated brilliantly at the moment. So if it's a total connectivity solution, not just for Wi-Fi, which is what, is the sexy stuff that everyone talks about every week, but it's all the other, safety, non-safety, flight deck, cabin crew, aircraft health monitoring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not there yet, basically.
Awesome.
But this is where we want to go.
Yeah. Then I got really loud, sorry. But I woke you up. Anyone out there have any questions for our panelists? Anyone want to press them on what we can do to make these partnerships work a little better, make the internet on board work a little better? No?
Can I ask a question?
Melanie's going to ask a question. I love this. She came running to give you a microphone.
Just based on what we've just said, what I would really love to know is all of you, when you believe we will be in that point where having a perfect partnership means that cabin crew, pilots, customers get on board and don't have to worry. They're connected. They're connected with their normal provider, the normal mobile provider, or some sort of agreement they've already got. When is that likely to happen? How far away are we from that?
I think in terms of technology, it's all there. In terms of delivering it to an airborne application, that always takes time, and there needs to be a commercial motivation to do it, which is kind of on us, right? So, and we know, because we've all acknowledged it, that the passenger and the crew or whatever just want to connect and it be seamless and not worry about it and not have a transaction to be concerned about. But you're asking the question when. Given that the technologies exist, realistically, I think it's probably towards the end of this decade before we start getting to that point, which is 5-ish years off. But it needs to all come together. It's all the component parts are there. So I understand the frustration because it's there, but it's not together, right?
Yeah.
I would.
Agreed. I mean, the technology's all there. It's just executing and making the decision to go do it.
I think this is exactly the reason, the raison d'être of our new program in Airbus, and this is what we want to make happen on the fleet. Yeah, I would say 3 years, 3 to 4 years is our ambition to come to the market with a fully integrated solution that would provide this seamless connectivity to the passenger, but also to the crew, cabin crew, flight crew, and so on. As soon as it is non-safety. Safety critical is a different beast and requires different technology. Integrating both safety and non-safety is a much longer objective.
I think it's a combination of regulatory, economics, flight density. What you're seeing right now, for example, from an economics point of view, when you get flight density, you can and you have certain homogeneity in the flight routes, you can support. In the US, for example, domestic flights in the US, they're getting there much faster than in Europe because most of the US is already connected. You have enough density there that you're throwing a lot of capacity at it. Regulatory-wise, it's relatively easy to support it. So you're getting there much faster than in Europe or in Asia, where you have regulatory challenges in certain markets that are still restricted. You have some issues. I think you have to get through the density issue where you have more airlines justifying that additional investment in space, in ground, in networks. You have to get through the regulatory issues, through the partnerships we talked about, and then, yeah, we'll get there. So if you're asking in certain parts, US is first, Europe is next, Asia is after that, and then all the other areas will come next. I would say gradually, but by the end of the decade, we should probably have uniformity across the globe.
I feel like sometimes partnerships can also create an exclusivity challenge, and I'll pick on Airbus a tiny bit, right? HBC Plus, you're very open on capacity, but very specific about hardware. So Reza's got a new ESA. I got the press release this morning. Mazel tov. I still don't understand it yet, but we'll get to that. If you wanted to put that on HBC Plus, not an option today because they've got a KA, they've got a KU, and they're done. Is that just sort of something you have to accept as part of the advantage of having the other things all work well? Is there a way to, and it's not just hardware versus capacity and things like that, but is it necessary to accept some limitations potentially with these partnerships that you might otherwise have foregone because you have these other solutions available?
To answer your ESA question, and I'll let Airbus answer the other question. Look, we're very agnostic. We have models where we have a LEO only solution, and again, this is the lightest antenna in this space from a LEO, under 100 pounds, right? 2.1 inches high. Full spectrum of the OneWeb capacity we can do. We're happy to couple that with a ThinCom 1717 or a 2517 to get the benefit of the high density KA capacity and the low latency of OneWeb, right? So that's kind of the apex solution, if you will. And then if you go, you could do LEO only. So we look at it in a very flexible way. Obviously, with HBC Plus, we're happy to consider adding ESAs, no problem.
You have to accept some constraints because the model we want to promote with HBC Plus is having one terminal that allows you to be compatible with several providers. If you end up with a specific solution for each of the providers, then you go completely against the philosophy of the model. So there are some limitations you may have to accept. On the other end, we completely recognize that the technology will continue to evolve, and HBC Plus is a product line and will continue to evolve with the technology. So the current definition of the HBC Plus is not the definition of HBC Plus tomorrow. And we will change the definition of our KA configuration. We will make our KU configuration evolve in order to accommodate the specificities of new service providers and make those configurations compatible with as much services as possible in the future.
Okay, I can work with that. Reza seems okay with it, so I'm cool with it. One last chance for everybody in the audience. Hey, we got a taker. I like that.
Thank you. Hi, Rasoulian from TCI, Turkish Airlines. So my question is related to technology and aircraft aviation certification processes. So, when you design an IFC program, it's very difficult to see 3 years, 5 years ahead from now, and we have long project periods like STCs, 1 year installation periods. In the meantime, the technology changes, LEOs are coming, direct-to-cell technology is coming, so we would like to be sure for our future to present our customers the best solution. So how we are going to solve this trivial situation? I hope it is clear.
Go for it.
Go for an open architecture multi-orbit solution. I mean, that's what we've been talking about. Open architecture means a terminal that can support multiple satellite architectures. It's not a closed system. It doesn't only work with one satellite. It works with GEO, MEO, LEO, whichever technology is out there today or in the future, it will work with it. Open architecture means it works with multiple waveforms. It doesn't only work with Hughes, it works with other. It works with Hughes, it works with others. So if you don't like one or they decide to raise their price tomorrow, you can negotiate one against another. Sorry, but that...
He's a good negotiator.
He's going to negotiate the two of you against each other. What are you apologizing?
So that, I mean, that's the way to do it. It's an open architecture, multi-orbit solution, as opposed to a closed solution.
And I think we could agree that the sort of software-defined modems, the multi-modem modmans, those sorts of technologies that have improved over the last several years and are rapidly improving makes a lot of that a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just to add to what Elias is saying, very similarly, Hughes has a Jupiter platform, but we've also embraced the open architecture in the sense that we have multi-mode modmans and we're able to roam onto other people's networks. And in fact, I think Hughes is unique in the sense that we actually partner with pretty much every satellite operator out there. So we're very, very open and Haribe, I think that's the name of the game is to have an open mind and an open approach and embrace the partnerships because Hughes in particular as a company can't be, we can't be everything for everybody, but if we have the right partnerships with Eutelsat, OneWeb, there'll be some further announcements kind of going forward, our partnership with SES, we have partnerships with Telesat, Eutelsat. So we've kind of created this environment, if you will, to do that. And then you couple that with technology, so the ESA as an example. We have, again, a great relationship with the ThinCom team. We're in active discussions with others as well. And we have our own antenna technology. So you create that optionality because to your point, when you install equipment on an aircraft, it's for a decade or more. So the platforms that you select need to be open and robust.
And then you add on it, I assume you're talking about Airbus. In the case of Airbus, HBC Plus is being offered as line fit or retrofit now. And it comes with the dual modman. So as Reza said, you could take one modem out, put another mod card in, take another one out, put another one in. So you have complete open architecture.
So just a quick follow-up, yeah. Mostly I'm talking about some kind of destructive technologies. For example, direct-to-cell. Maybe it will also include our customer experience in the future. So it is possible that all equipments we're buying right now would be rubbish in the future. So how partnership will solve it?
I'm not willing to bet, at least in the next few years, that the direct-to-cell technology is going to be available in any commercially feasible, technically feasible way. I know there has been some tests. You can do direct-to-cell SMS messaging, maybe direct-to-cell where you can actually talk and even watch video. Some people are betting a lot of billions of dollars on it. I personally am not there. We talked about this earlier today. If you are the procurement leader of an airline, are you willing to put your career on the line to bet on this technology? If you are, fine. Some people may not. I mean, that's the $64 question.
64,000. The $64,000 question.
$64 million
the pyramid?
question.
These days we could get into billions.
Yeah.
All right. We are unfortunately out of time, but that's going to be a wrap for us. Obviously, These folks are around all week. They would love to have you come and talk to them. I'm around all week. I would love to talk to anyone because, as you can tell, I'm really shy. But quick round of applause for our panelists. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
And I believe we've got another session coming up at 11, which is going to be cabin environment, achieving the ultimate ambiance and well-being for passengers. So if you're into that sort of thing, stick around, walk around for a few minutes, go to the bathroom, whatnot, get back here, or we'll see you later during the day. Thank you all very much.